So I'm a political economist by training. Grew up in South Africa. Have worked in investment banking for about 8 years. Traveled across the African continent. Currently based in London. I write, I speak, and I think for a living. And I do a few different things. I call it a portfolio of careers. My mom says I'm just being a millennial. I had started my career at RMB on the graduate program. It was the first job that I had. I was on a kind of trajectory, was earning well. I was kind of set. And I often say it's the longest relationship I've ever had, 8 years. But it got to a point where there were both push and pull factors, and there was something inside me that wanted more. I think in terms of the push factors, eventually when you get quite senior at a corporate level, there's a lot of non-work stuff that starts to influence the way things are. There was a kind of lot of background noise, which I didn't really enjoy, and what I call bullshit and bureaucracy. And I think that was one of the factors where I just kind of felt a little bit lethargic, a little bit uninspired, and I think it was probably time for a change in terms of the push factors. I had also gotten to a point where at 27 I was running a team. At 28 I was sitting on the Africa Management Board, and I was like, okay, well, where to from here? So that was on the push side. On the pull side, I wanted to kind of test myself against the best and brightest in the world. Ever since I was 15, 16, I've wanted to live in London. And I think, at the time I had just turned 30, kind of asking myself a lot of questions around significance, around purpose, around impact, and whether this was it, really. So I wanted to start a new chapter. I thought the time was right. I had tried to be pragmatic around the way that I did it. I finished my master's. I bought a property. I had saved up to give it a proper crack. But of course, I mean, it's easier said than done. And there were three real things that I needed to overcome in order to make the transition, which was fear, ego, and comfort. And that took me quite a long time. So Mindflux it's a relatively new company. We do corporate training and education, focused around the African continent and building better African leaders and inspiring Africans to have global talent and standards and skills. So the idea kind of came about because I had been invited to do a lot of this kind of training. I've got a background in education with my work at Gibbs. My brothers worked at the African Leadership University, and my sisters also worked at the African Leadership University. So we were all passionate about education. We were all passionate about the African continent, and our skill sets were very complementary as well. So, with that in mind, we started to kind of think around whether this was something that we could do. My mom's from Mauritius, so we've got Mauritian heritage, and we're geographically dispersed. So because we've had global exposure, I was in London, my sister was in Dubai, and my brother was in Mauritius. We thought that we could take the lessons and the learnings that we had all kind of experienced through our corporate journeys, and then kind of develop something that addressed the blind spots that a lot of corporates had. So effectively, it's education, corporate training. We want to kind of we've got one eye on the future. We believe we have an X factor. We're young, we're edgy, and we're trying to do some really interesting work, particularly in the areas of mental health and diversity and inclusion.
Are you going in with bespoke solutions, or are you packaging solutions that you're then, selling on to companies?
Well, it's a bit of both, to be honest. So we've got kind of programs that we've put a lot of effort and time into with really world-class trainers, which we offer to corporates. But of course, it's a two-way conversation. So we customize these based on the requirements and the needs of the corporate, based on their budgetary constraints. And obviously, in this current environment where we've gone from having a business model that envisaged kind of in-person training to to one that's kind of gone quite virtual and quite digital as a result of the pandemic. We've had to adjust quite a lot, but it's still relatively early days. But I think we've identified areas where we think there's going to be significant growth, and that corporates would be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't pay attention to this, because it's going to affect their productivity, their efficiency, and their profitability, and ultimately the happiness of their workforces, unless they address these issues.
And are there specific type of clients that you're going in as early adopters, and which industries will they be in?
So mostly targeted at Mauritian corporates, banking, finance, and the corporate sector, as well as educational bodies. I think in this kind of process, there's got to be a lot of hand-holding initially as well, because a lot of the stuff is new, and when you're faced with kind of all these moving parts through a pandemic, the old ways of doing things, a lot of disruption, we need to be on the journey with the clients a lot of the time. So we're starting in Mauritius, obviously, because it's small and they've got a very kind of unique incentive structure around corporate training and education. Obviously, given the fact that I've grown up in South Africa and have a base there, South Africa would be next on the list. And eventually, once we've got that right, we'd like to look at places like Kenya and Rwanda before tackling big markets like Nigeria. I feel like this is a trick question. I need to be very careful with the way that I answer it. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. My two bosses, as I call them, even though they're younger than me, we're all very different personalities, all very opinionated, and all with very strong visions. So initially, we were a little bit apprehensive around how we would work together. But I think it's been pretty good and pretty constructive. We don't always agree. We have very robust and healthy debates and discussions. But I think we've got the same values, we've got the same drive, we've got the same work ethic, and we want to kind of build something lasting with a legacy. So all of those ingredients mean that the fundamentals are sound, and I think also iron sharpens iron. So we push each other to kind of improve, to be efficient, and we've all got very very different skill sets. So, for example, my brother Angad, he's a very operational type of person. He's the type of person that will get stuff done. He's a Mr. Fix-It, and he's very efficient. My sister's very very numerical. Mehek is very good with client presentation and client interaction as well. And I'm a big picture guy. So, I look at strategy, I look at vision, I look at content and communication. And, I think these kind of skill sets are complementary. They work quite well together. But I can definitely confirm that they're both much smarter than I am. The ingredients that you need if you are looking to start something and move from a corporate space to a more entrepreneurial space. And I think in this environment, that may happen a lot more than we initially expected, with people losing jobs and having to come up with new and alternative careers, particularly in the digital space. So, I mean, I've had a few reflections on my journey. I've touched on a couple of them. Number one, success is not permanent and failure is not fatal. So you've got to trust the process. I think number two is the fact that you should really guard your reputation religiously. I think if you need to under promise and over deliver rather than the other way around. And I think that speaks to the third point, which is around the value of relationships and networks and authenticity and showing up, because you want people to be recommending you and talking to you about opportunities for you when you're not in the room. I think good manners is something that even the best education, it will open up doors that even the best education will not. I think it's a cliche, but the harder you work, the luckier you get.